I hadn't actually considered the cost of imposter syndrome and whether it really is imposter syndrome or this systemic piece that is really, I think, the bigger elephant, to bring an elephant
Mm.
into this vernacular as well. Um,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
is it that I'm hearing from my clients, whether it's psychotherapy clients
Hmm.
and what's happening in their day-to-day lives, whether it's my professional coaching clients through my practice management, what is what are their realities? And it's really funny because I never once considered imposter syndrome.
Really,
It's
kind of a eureka moment. Like people are actually going through
well,
this, and
like
the stuff that
it's
we're going to talk about is important.
yeah, and it's funny because sort of loose statistics say that like 70% of the population suffers from this in one form or another. And it's more prevalent in high achieving, high intellect people. And so, we've got a bunch of professionals running around there that are feeling neurotic and feeling like
Hmm.
frauds and failures. These are our doctors, our lawyers, our financial advisors, right? Like, and there's consequences. And this is what people don't get is the consequences of it all.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
because this
yeah.
colors and informs the decisions that you make, it informs and colors the information that you choose to acquire and to learn from. Like
Hmm.
it's very
Hmm.
insidious. It's been an interesting journey,
Yeah,
actually. We really have to take stock of what it is we're basing our quote unquote truths on, right? And that
yeah.
means asking, is
Hmm.
it me or is it them?
Right. That's right.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a very interesting kind of duality that I didn't expect to come out of this.
Yeah.
Because we know they exist. It's like, fuck, they're not Voldemort for God's sakes, right? I know you're not a Harry Potter guy,
I get it though. I get it.
right? But I mean, like, and I talk about this all the time. We name things to tame things. This is how we
Hmm.
remove barriers, bias, stigma, the whole shooting match is by having open,
Hmm.
honest discourse and the space to do it. Because in this day and age of instantaneousness, right? That's the dirty weapon
Hmm.
that everyone uses. You have 24 hours, right? Because things in this world is
Yeah.
now 24 hours segments
Or less.
or less, right? And that's how we
Hmm.
weaponize
Hmm.
things. And and that's
Hmm.
negotiating in bad faith. When we don't allow individuals the respect to have the time to think about really what is happening and what their own individual part in it is. Because you can't do everything all at once.
Yeah. No, 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 no. That's true. That just makes it too daunting. And that in turn leads to you not trying to tackle it at all. Because you're
It
like,
just
instead of me trying to figure out how to take this next step up the mountain, I'm looking at the whole mountain and being like, how do I get up there?
well,
You know what I
this
mean?
is
Instead of
it.
just trying to figure out where do I put my foot next?
Yeah, and this is sort of what this is all about is understanding really what is happening here and then being able to respond appropriately. Because if you keep trying
Hmm.
to respond to something that isn't what it is, what you're calling it, or identifying it as, like the problem's not going to go away. And in fact, you're just doubling down and you're making it even worse. And you're hurt, but the worst part is you're hurting
Yeah.
yourself, right?
Hmm.
Anyway,
By leaving it as this kind of aim, by kind of leaving it as this amorphous thing that you
Yes.
don't know the dimensions of, you don't know the shape of, you know what I mean? But when you, like you said, when you name it, you start to identify it, you start to recognize it, you put it under the microscope so that it can be identified and then
And
kind of
you
dealt with.
recognize the position from which it occurs from, right? Because
Hmm.
when we name it, we identify it, we position it, right?
Yeah.
So whose objective is really trying to be achieved here? Whose bottom
Hmm.
line, whose narrative? Because it could be mine, and that's the imposter syndrome. I'm a failure.
Hmm.
I'm stupid. I'm not worthy. I'm a terrible wife. I'm a bad employee.
Hmm.
Or is it the system,
Yeah.
right? Because if I respond to the system the way that I respond to the terrible lies I tell myself, I'm just running my self identity into the ground and just grinding it
Hmm.
into dust. My self-worth, like this is leads
Hmm.
to depression, anxiety, all sorts of mental health problems. Like we trivialize it, but it's really not something that should be trivialized. And I hear that a lot. um that's a very
Okay.
common
Okay.
way, you know because and so when we
Hmm.
minimize things, that erodes, that minimizes us as people,
Yeah. Hmm.
which is kind of terrible.
Yeah, because we have a lot more say than we think we do in a lot of situations. We can influence and affect these situations a lot more than we give ourselves credit for.
We continually and routinely give away our autonomy and agency every day,
Hmm. Hmm.
and people don't realize it.
That's something.
Actually, thanks for having this conversation with me. Um,
Yeah, man.
it's an interesting, this is interesting ground that we're covering here. And it's going to
Yeah.
require a lot more thinking but, we got to start somewhere.